Welcome to the Drapery. Dr. Chris Baker, DC here, reporting on the event that actually just happened today, where I won SPDC 28.07 with Izzet Blitz. So I basically brewed this deck this morning on an idea that I wanted to try to copy like old modern burn decks with Treasure Cruise. And so when I was building the deck, I named it Izzet Burn and put in all of the burn spells like Bolt of Chronos, the red font, and just a whole bunch of things like, Lava Axe, Arrow Storm. Started off with that and quickly realized, 5 mana for 5 damage is too slow in this format. And there's tons of better things to be doing, so the deck morphed over time and just kind of behaved more like a mono red aggro deck splashing a little bit of blue. So clear up the name. The name is actually Izzet Blitz, so I'm trying to get that changed here, but what we want to do is kind of look at what people are playing today. I think is a key thing. 2 other Izzet decks, both control decks. 2 Boros heroic decks, 1 Teamer control deck, 1 blue-black control deck. This thing was actually really interesting to see in action. It was basically a mono blue deck just splashing a little bit of black for some removal spells. Mono white splash black, so some basically 2 white token aggro decks. And then only 1 blue-white heroic deck. Despite blue-white heroic winning, the last 4 events or something crazy, sometimes 5 people play that deck, and then the chances of it winning are very high. But when only 1 person plays the deck, likelihood goes down. So I think the metagame is just too small to make any real decision out of it, since most people are playing established decks. The only new decks to come about were my Izzet Blitz and Mora meets Minty, Tamir control deck. So good to see there. Alright, let's do a little deck tech. So this is where the deck ended up. It's basically mono red mono haste creatures with 1 island, 4 evolving wilds, 4 swift water cliffs to make room for Voyage's End and Treasure Cruise. Voyage's End is just the most important card against heroic. You can't possibly beat them without it, I don't think. If you simply rely on all your red burn spells to kill things like Laguna Band Trailblazer, you just won't be able to beat the card. Plus, if they have double, or I guess 1 God's Willing type effect, it's cool if you can get them to name red with a burn spell, and then Voyage's End in response or something. You can get a little tricky with it. But this deck is basically trying to take advantage of haste creatures and then burn spells to the face. So let's see what we got. We got Crone Crusader. He's a good 1-drop. Not a lot of people have been running a lot of X1 sweepers lately, at least. I hadn't seen it around as much. It's a staple in all of the blue-red sideboards, but things like Fester Gloom aren't really out there, so I figure this guy's good. And things that you want to be doing with him are Dragon Mantle and Titan Strength. Titan Strength in particular is usually just another lightning bolt. It's just another way to have 1 mana deal 3 damage. It also can boost toughness, so it saves your guys from red removal spells. It can also allow your creatures to attack into very big toughness blockers. So very versatile card. I've been really happy with it. Scrying is also very good in a deck like this that doesn't really want excess lands, so you're essentially drawing a card every time you get to put a land on bottom. Collateral Damage is an interesting 1-drop here. It serves the role to be a little bit of extra damage reach to the opponent's face. I like that it works pretty well with the Crone Crusader tokens, since they will usually be fodder once they lose their value. And then we also have a couple active trees in main. There's nothing more appealing I could see than like trying to like kill a heroic creature with like Voyage's End and Lightning Strike, and they just had double God's Willing to protect it, and then like the next turn with 4 mana open, you just like active trees in it, hit them with it, and then collateral damage to get rid of it. We can all live the dream, can't we? So yeah, so those are the 1-drops, 2-drops. Voyage's End, basically just heroic. It's good at clearing out a key blocker. It scries. Not usually going to be playing it on any of our own creatures unless... I could see it maybe if, you know, the Freakish Cure or something is trying to hit our guy and we don't want them to gain life or something. Lightning Strike, very versatile. Just kill the creatures or kill them. Valley Dasher, you wouldn't think is very good, but I just kind of read this card as 2 mana, 2/2 haste, because I'm trying to attack every turn if able anyway. And if they can stop it, then I'm probably not going to be doing well that game anyway. So I don't think it's that bad in this style of deck. It's what Blitz is made for. Martyr Scout follows up on that theme. We do have so many mountains so that we could potentially play this thing out on turn 2. But even if we don't, and we happen to draw our 1-of island, or we needed to search for our 1 island, dashing him is fine. I really like this guy because he gets around a lot of the sorcery suit removal, and all of the things that kill X1s, Scouring Sands, Fester Gloom, Barrage of Boulders, are all sorcery speed. So this dodges that, which is really cool. He just surfs right over it. So that's pretty sweet. Goblin Heel Cutter. Let's get him on the right spot of the curve here. He's actually a 3-drop. These are 3-drops. We don't play 4-drops in this deck. If we have that much mana, it's not likely we want to, you know, put these guys in the way of sorcery speed removal and stuff like that. We usually have plenty of mana as well, but I figured a mix between Heel Cutters and Skull Cleavers. Skull Cleaver can attack into 4 toughness creatures and maybe kill them. It deals a little more damage than this thing. This thing could cost more mana if you had to keep re-dashing it. You don't get to develop your board. So yeah, it's a tough card. Like, I think Heel Cutter's better overall, but I figured a split would be interesting. Active Treason again. Another way to get rid of a blocker. Shoot him with the collateral damage. And then 2 Treasure Cruise. Decks that aren't playing mono spells, you don't want 4 Treasure Cruise, because Treasure Cruise is basically a dead card. Like, everything has to go completely wrong. They have to kill all your creatures and permanents. But this is a sick way to refill. Like, let's say after we, you know, trade off a few of our early creatures and, you know, play a couple removal spells on their creatures, and then it is pretty good. So initially, again, I wanted the deck to have 4 Treasure Cruise into just all the burn spells and just point burn at the opponent's face, but that only is happening in Modern because all the burn spells cost 1 to 3 mana. You know, you got like Swiftspear, Goblin Guide, Bolt, Eidolon, Lava Spike, Rift Bolt. You know, they have a lot more fetch lands as well. We only have 4. So that's the main deck. And my thought is, I'm just trying to play fast. I'm trying to stumble. I don't think it's a particularly good heroic matchup, but I have some removal, and so I also have a sideboard to deal with that. So against heroic base decks, I have Magma Spray to try to kill their creatures if they have creatures that would die to it. Negate can be pretty good against, the God's Willing type spells. Another Fifth Voyage's End, Force Away. Seems pretty good. I run the full Scouring Sands against the token decks, since it's the best card, and Barrage of Boulders doesn't really do anything for me. Negates and Disdainful Strokes just are fantastic in the control matchup, since they counter the Treasure Cruises, the removal spells. These can stop the Grey Merchants and Minotaurs and Rise of Eagles, all that good stuff. And then against the control matchups, you also want the 4 Treasure Cruises, because they're most likely going to be able to stop our early game, and we just need to be able to refill. Whereas against other decks that aren't control decks, that are more aggro, they're not going to stop our early game, so we won't have many cards dying in the graveyard, so we don't really want that. We just want to race them with our burn spells and efficiently costed things. So yeah, so that's the deck. I basically came up with it this morning, and as someone who produces content like this and plays in these, pretty awesome free to enter standard Pauper tournaments, I really just get bored playing the same deck week in and week out. There's not enough prize on the line for me to try to tune and find the best deck in the format. I'd rather just play different stuff all the time, since the format is really open like that. So it makes it a lot more interesting to make content like this too. Alright, so that's the deck tech. I'll be back with round 1, and we'll go through our tournament today.